The U.S. president has Canada firmly in his sights again. In his latest social media post, it appears to have grave ramifications for trade between Canada and the United States.
Canada is now in serious trouble after Donald Trump ended trade talks with Mark Carney. Donald Trump ended talks in regards to the digital services tax, a proposed 3% tax on American big tech firms. Now Donald Trump is threatening even more tariffs on Canada. Let's take a look at that.
Let's dig deeper into all of this. We've got CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian on the story, joining us now live from Ottawa. Rafi, we just broke the news a few moments ago. The president has posted on Truth Social that he is terminating all discussions on trade with Canada effective immediately. What are we hearing from the president?
Yeah, this is a pretty dramatic thing to post, just a few days before Canada Day and also just a few days before Independence Day in the U.S. But he's put this tweet up effectively. It's on your screens and I'll read it to you. He's saying, "We have just been informed that Canada, a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariffs for years on dairy products, has just announced that they are putting a digital services tax on our American technology companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country. They are obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussion with us also. Based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada effective immediately. We will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the United States of America within the next 7-day period. Thank you for your attention to this matter," which is what he's been signing off his social media posts lately. So, yeah, this is quite dramatic. We are in touch with the Canadian government trying to figure out what this means on their end. If they're talking to the US, certainly phone calls would be being made right now. We are aware that Dominic LeBlanc, the Intergovernmental Trade Minister, has not been talking to his US counterparts this week, to Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick. We understand, according to LeBlanc's office, that this is due to a scheduling conflict. That's what we were told. That there is nothing more to read into the fact that those conversations have not been happening this week at the political level. But seeing this sudden late afternoon tweet from, or social media post from Trump, well, that suggests there are more questions to be answered here, and we're asking those questions and trying to find out more.
Canada's economy has been shrinking, according to recent reports, and a new set of tariffs could be the death blow. It's yet to be seen what Donald Trump plans on doing. However, if he moves forward with 25 to 30% tariffs, that could be fatal to our economy, which is reliant on the United States. So there's some misinformation here that I want to correct. First of all, there's no 400% tariffs on dairy products from the United States. That's not true. There are tariffs on dairy products that enter into Canada, but only if it passes a certain quota. And those quotas have never been filled, so the tariffs have never applied. I also want to point out that this is covered by the trade deal that the United States made with Canada back when Donald Trump was president in his first term. So Donald Trump is literally complaining about a trade deal that he signed. In regards to the digital services tax, this is essentially a small tax on big corporations that do business in Canada. Big tech companies like Google and Facebook want to do business in Canada, but they try to get away with paying barely any tax. So I don't think this tax is an incredibly bad idea. However, I do think it's the wrong time to bring it up. Putting this tax forward when you're in a tense trade negotiation with the United States is simply not a good idea. So I think Carney screwed up here. So I've seen other political commentators take Trump's statements about dairy tariffs at face value, but I want to point out that that's simply not the case. There's a lot of misinformation out there, but the truth is that these tariffs are not applied and that they're really a non-issue. I mean, think about it like this. When's the last time you ever heard anyone in Canada complain about dairy tariffs or not being able to get American milk products? That just never happens, so I want to point that out. So to end this off, I want to show you a video of Tom Auclair talking about the tariffs today. Before we get into this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's go.
Well, there are two things that are mentioned in that posting by Donald Trump on Truth Social. In the first one, he's talking about our supply management system. There's nothing new in that whatsoever. It's been there all along. The 400% reference is the fact that American dairy producers barely have access to the Canadian market. They did get a bit of a breach when we had the Canada-US-Mexico trade deal. We've otherwise been able to keep intact our supply management system, and Parliament has just passed a law saying that in any trade negotiations that we will maintain that system of supply management. The other one, the digital services tax, is also not new. It's not something that was just thrown into the picture. What's happening, though, is Canada is obviously saying that's Canadian jurisdiction, it's our sovereignty, and we're imposing a digital tax. That's the one, for example, that saw some of the major players in social media withdraw from providing news in the Canadian market, notably Facebook, simply because they didn't like that tax. It was their way of reacting to a Canadian decision. That's fine. So Trump putting these two things on the table now is just rewarming up a very old meal that's been lying around for some time. And it can mean one of two things, because with Trump, of course, you're never too sure. Since he considers himself a master negotiator, maybe he has real hope to get rid of the digital services tax. If that happens, there'll be a heavy price politically to pay for Carney, of course, but then Trump gets to say, you see, I got a masterful deal. On the dairy stuff, on the supply management, I don't see how it would be possible for us to give much on that, because across the country, the whole system has been in place for so many decades that it would be upheaval in the Canadian dairy market. So I don't see that one as being very easy to move along. Getting rid of a new digital services tax, sure, that's not the end of the world.
Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne suggested to reporters last week, Tom, that the digital tax may be negotiated as part of the broader ongoing U.S.-Canada trade discussions. He said, and I quote him here, obviously all of that is something that we're considering as part of our broader discussions that you may have. Now, we understand that the first levy, if we can call it that, the first payment for digital tax was supposed to go out on Monday. In your understanding of what has happened now in this hour, do you think that will still happen on Monday?
Yes, but I also think that there are negotiations going on, and that's the signal that you just correctly read in what François-Philippe Champagne said. He's basically showing his hand and saying we're willing to negotiate this thing away if it's to get the broader trade deal. So what's Trump's game? How does he always play the game? It's always the same way. He has to show that he's the winner. So he's setting it up to say, oh, these are the two things that I have to fight against. This digital services tax, boy, that's an attack on American corporations. We can't have that. He's probably almost got that in his pocket now. So he's going to say that he's shutting the thing down and then say that Canada came crawling back and finally gave him what he wanted.
Tom, what do you make of this timeline? Because the president has this habit of, 1 week, 2 weeks, 15 days, 2 months. And now he says, and I'm going to quote him, that within the next 7-day period, we will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the United States of America. What do you make of this 1 week period?
It's the same thing, that we're very close to a deal and that Trump will get to crow that he got the deal that he wanted if it does come to pass. At the same time, Prime Minister Carney is going to have to get ready to be very tough. Trump keeps saying he doesn't need Canadian petroleum, doesn't need Canadian lumber, doesn't need anything we've got in Canada, including the potash that goes into every single farmer's field in the United States of America. Fine. I mean, there are lots of options for us there, too. We could start levying very heavy tariffs or simply shut the tap on some of those things. And the Americans would be in a really tough bind. They're already completely disobeying, breaking every single rule that they signed on to in the Canada-US-Mexico trade deal. They can't be trusted on anything, and especially not on a new trade deal. And it's, at the same time, that's what Trump says he wants. He wants to renegotiate the Canada-US-Mexico deal. So this is Donald Trump at his best, in his mind, at his worst, as far as the rest of the planet is concerned, misbehaving, spinning stuff, going completely outside the normal rules of a negotiation. This is the Trump method. I don't read that much into it, frankly. I think that Trump is simply signaling that he thinks that a trade deal is within hailing distance with Canada right now. We'll probably get to that in the next week. And again, this will be Donald Trump's chance to crow what a great negotiator he is.
Indeed. Okay, we'll leave it at that for the moment, but always a pleasure. CTV News political commentator, former NDP leader Tom Mulcair. Thank you for your time, Tom.
All the best, Akshay.